enough. Okay, we'll call council to order and we'll have a reading from Councillor Slip.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge our meeting place. The city of Flin Flon Council Chambers is situated on the ancestral lands of the Treaty 5 territory. We'd like to acknowledge that we also work in partnership with First Nations in Treaty 6 and 10 territories and the Métis Nation.
Thank you. Now we'll have a reading and confirming of minutes with Councillor Slip again.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held September 19th, 2023 be adopted as received.
A seconder, Councillor Eagle, all in favor? And that is passed. So what we are is at a public hearing on two of these resolutions, and that would take us to number 3, and that's Councillor Slip again, or do?
No.
It's just a notice.
Yeah, the resolutions are further down.
Okay, so
We can just carry on.
we'll just skip 3 and 4 then and go to the resolutions?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's the way to do that. So, just a second. The check schedule is coming first, so that's Councillor Eagle.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 40-02. Be it resolved that the accounts in the amount of $902,001.54 be approved for payment.
Seconder, Councillor Hanson, and all in favor, so that is complete. Okay, now, Councillor Hanson, here we go, zoning plan amendment.
The second reading of the zoning plan amendment definitions, 40-03. Be it resolved the bylaw number 2023-12 being a bylaw of the city of Flin Flon to amend the city of Flin Flon zoning bylaw number 27 of 84 be read a second time and passed on the second reading.
Okay, I need a seconder, that's Councillor Slip. And all in favor? Now, should we have a description of what it is we just did before we move on?
Sure.
Can I maybe ask Councillor Eagle to give us a synopsis of this one?
There is.
Go ahead.
Okay. The proposed changes are to allow for the establishment of the emergency residential center in the central commercial zone in downtown Flin Flon. This will allow for the provision of needed emergency services to the at-risk population in the community, especially in the more harsh winter months. There is a distinct need for an emergency service center in the downtown core, as the majority of residents require it. Services are located in this area. The proposal will serve to meet the need and integrate well into the downtown and existing associated services currently offered. So this is the intern housing on the Center Friendship Center, I believe, is what this covers.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what it is we're talking about. And because we're on that, is this the time to make it clear to everybody that if there are any objections, they can be made in writing, and there are forms here to be able to do that? I'm not expecting any, but we are ready for them if they do. That being said, we will move on to the next one.
BL 2023-13, the Development Plan Amendment, Industrial Commercial, second reading. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2023-13, being a bylaw of the city of Flin Flon to amend Flin Flon Development Plan bylaw number 37 of 83, be read a second time and passed on second reading.
Okay, I need a seconder, Councillor Eagle, and all in favor? So that is done. Can we get a little explanation of that?
I have it here. The subject area is approximately 6,200 square feet in size and is located at the corner of Main Street and North Avenue in downtown core of the city of Flin Flon. The area proposed for redesignation was previously used for light industrial purposes, but has been cleared and underdeveloped for a number of years. The area surrounding the proposed site is currently designated as central commercial and is fully developed as a downtown commercial district of Flin Flon. The area is accessed via municipal roads and servicing is provided by municipal sewer and water. The purpose of the proposed redesignation is to allow for an increase in the availability of commercial land within the downtown, which will assist in facilitating development of future commercial opportunities in the area. Flin Flon currently has a distinct lack of commercial land that is available for large-scale development opportunities within the downtown. Future development on site will allow for a renewal of the central commercial area and provide new commercial opportunities not currently available.
Okay, so that takes care of that one. So now we're going on, I think, to 5-4 with Councillor Slip.
Yes, this is a bylaw amendment, zoning plan amendment, second reading. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2023-14, being a bylaw of the City of Flin Flon to amend the City of Flin Flon zoning bylaw number 27/84, be read a second time and be passed on second reading.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Hanson, all in favor? Okay, again, so that's done. And that particular piece of land, where's that described here?
That's a HUD Bay land, is it
Do
not?
we have a description on that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's in your, okay, do you want me to just read it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you would, just
The
because
proposal-
this is so similar. Just-
Yeah, the proposing zoning amendment is in support of proposed City of Flin Flon Development Plan Amendment 2023-13, which is to allow for the redesignation of land in the downtown core from light industrial to central commercial. The proposed rezoning will allow for an increase in the availability of commercial land ready for development in downtown Flin Flon, which is greatly needed to allow for continued growth and increased commercial development possibilities or opportunities.
So the two, if I'm clear now, the two that you have, Ms. Fair, that you have the papers there for
Yep.
objections are which ones now?
It's all of them.
All three.
Yeah, all three.
All three, okay, I thought it was only two, but three, it's all three.
Yeah.
All right, so there's nothing further on our agenda. So I'll move for adjournment. Seconder, okay, we are adjourned.
Okay.
And now we'll open it up to questions. We'll start with the press.
Sure.
Okay, asking first of all, a question more directed towards you, Mayor Fontaine, but the last time we had one of these meetings, it had come out of the re-amalgamation of the 3 RCMP districts, one of which involves Flin Flon. I know you weren't at the meeting, I believe Councillor Litwin was sitting in. Now that you're here, I wanted to kind of get your idea of what that situation is like, and if you've got anything to say about that particular instance.
What I have to say is I hope that it is temporary. I'm not in favor of running long-term on a system like this. If it's left up to me, it's not one system that I would choose. We have been through this before, and I know that my last term as mayor, we had petitioned to have Cranberry removed from our district simply because there was too much time with officers spent in transit between one place and the other. But we never had anybody where they needed to be, when they needed to be there. And the travel time just from Cranberry, we thought, was outrageous. Now, if you add Snow Lake into it, it's going to be very difficult catching people in between, having staff, RCMP staff able to do all that, on a short-term basis. It's going to leave them short-staffed, in my view. So I'm not in favor of it, not at all. I don't believe any of the communities involved are in favor of it.
No, doesn't seem like it. I know Snow Lake has particularly been vocal about that. They must have a dozen letters of, formalized letters to be sent down to D Division requesting that the change not take place. They had a petition that had, I think, over 300 signatures on it. Do you see the city potentially taking on a similar role? Do you see the city gathering up letters from the public or setting aside a petition or something for people to voice their grievances about this?
Well, I haven't up till now. It's something we could do if we feel it's necessary. We haven't discussed it to that point. We will make sure that the D Division is aware of our feelings, but if it's felt that that would make a difference, then I wouldn't be opposed to doing it.
Okay. It's also, I do believe that change goes into effect on Thursday. Has there been, since the last meeting, Lynn had said that there had been some discussion between her and Officer Brichette, I believe it was, but has there been any sort of further communication between RCMP, either the Manitoba or Flin Flon, and the city and council since then?
Not that I'm aware of, unless somebody else is.
No. And then, I don't think this is something they want to do either.
No.
But given the shortage of police officers across the country, I think they're just trying to do what they can to keep everybody afloat. I'm pretty sure that the police don't really want this situation either.
I talked to an off-duty RCMP officer off the record, And he was just flabbergasted.
Yeah.
He said it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. A quote, doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
I interviewed like the media relations officers. They said that basically it is temporary. And they did indicate that they're worried about officer burnout.
Yeah,
And that's why they're making this move. It's strict. And they said it is only temporary. And they also said, getting back to what Eric commented, if there's enough stuff of the public, they will make changes to it.
yeah.
Then I wouldn't be opposed to us doing that
Yeah,
sort of thing
that's
as a
right.
community, but I understood that it was a special case why they were doing this. I didn't think they wanted to do it long-term either.
No, they said they indicate it's because of officer burnout is why they've done this.
But in effect, whether they decide to make it official or not, that's in fact what's happening is, they have to cover for each other. So all they've done is made public what's basically having to happen anyway. They let the public know, but it's a question of where they put the headquarters, but it doesn't change the manpower one bit. We're all short of RCMP.
The bottom line is we need no more
We need
RCMP
some
officers.
bottoms.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the MM on the radio tomorrow, and one of their 4 priorities for whatever the next government is more police, is lobbying for more police funding and public safety funding, be it CSOs like we've talked about, or other forms to take pressure off the RCMP, because there just isn't enough. So hopefully, the lobby is strong and we can get some more funding from whomever makes the next government here in a few hours.
I'm hoping that when the next government is formed, that the next government, whoever that is going to be, is going to recognize that this RCMP shortage is long-term. BC alone is short 500 RCMP officers. That's just British Columbia. So we have issues, we don't like these issues, but obviously this is not a quick term or a quick fix. I think that the next government, and I just speak for myself, not for council or anybody else here, I hope the next government understands that it's time to put up and do some real funding in every community that needs it, and we all need it, to fund community safety officers. They're known as CSOs, and they will be able to take a huge burden off RCMP in so many ways. They're not RCMP employees, they would be City of Flin Flon employees. You would have to have 2. We've talked about this many times. We know that the City of Thompson benefited from a pilot program for CSOs for 2 years. Their funding ran out, so did having a CSO. I think that's untenable. I don't think that is workable, and I don't think that has to continue. So I'm hoping the next government sees clearly what communities really need. And that really isn't just RCMP officers. They're a long time coming. In fact, now RCMP training, from what I've read recently, has been extended in depot. And that can be a problem as well, because there aren't enough coming through quickly enough now already.
250.
So, that's my soapbox for tonight.
Councillor Eagle is absolutely right, and the provincial government, maybe even the federal government, has to start thinking outside of the box on police, because there just isn't enough RCMP officers, and they're spread thin anyhow. So what Councillor Eagle talked about with the public safety, or the community safety officers, and maybe there's other things, but the municipalities cannot afford to pay for these CSOs, so we need help from the government, and so does the RCMP.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
To build off of what Councillor Eagle said there about CSOs, I'm not 100% familiar with the project, or with the project that you mentioned in Thompson, but cursory understanding is that they would be city employees, but their salaries would be paid by the province. Would that be correct?
The pilot
We
program
have
was
one today,
somewhat,
if that's the way it was.
yeah, the pilot program was different because the pilot program did fund it. But if a municipality right now decides to train 1 or 2 CSOs, because there is training periodic training involved over that first year. It is a municipal cost, it's not a provincial cost. And that's where it's sitting right now.
Yeah,
We don't have room in our budget.
And there's no room in budgets. There are no room in budgets. No, there aren't. And the bottom line is governments do have to step up. And I agree, federal government as well, because they're having trouble supplying, training, and deploying our CMP officers. I think it's time that the next government here and the feds got busy and talked about it seriously. And I think we need to lobby for that.
And there has been a lobby for that
Yeah.
with the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. It's one of their four priorities that they went to the political parties with, was public safety and CSOs and funding. And not only that, but predictable funding from, for a lot of things. And that is, public safety is part of it, and CSOs are what. However, there's some communities that have their own police force, and they need help too. So
Yes.
it's an issue.
It's universal right now.
It's a universal problem.
It is. It is.
So the idea of the CSO, then, municipal employee paid by the city of Flin Flon to do some of, but not all the duties of a police officer, then, are we not looking at then the city being put in a spot where you basically got to literally pay the salary to cover the failings of two other levels of government?
That's a good word to put it.
I just wanna make sure I got like the picture more or less accurate here.
I don't know if, myself if I would term it as failings of the government. I mean, governments have their own challenges to meet as well. I just think it's time to get very serious about how this can be done. And I think if governments get creative enough, and both governments get creative enough with communities involved and municipalities involved, I think it's doable.
Okay. Last one question now. I also wanted to touch base about any sort of discussions with the city of Flin Flon and Hud Bay involving the Trout Lake Dam. There was a public meeting that Hud Bay held about that last week. Sounds like Hud Bay is weighing a couple different options with regards to that dam, including possibly decommissioning or even replacing it. I don't know what sort of impact any of those decisions would have on the city of Flin Flon, on infrastructure or water management or anything like that. But has Hud Bay been in talks with the city or city council about whatever future plans they have?
Last week.
Yeah.
When they were having their other talks, we spoke with them as well. And we talked about the repercussions of their, if they do take down, for example, the last few logs, that would lower the lake level, the potential lake level, by a couple of feet. And then eventually, if they were decided to take out the concrete structure, that would do more. It has very little effect, though, on anybody downstream. We found that out. Because they would only do that on a low water time, so that its effect as a leveler is kind of negated. What we were concerned with was whether we would still be able to access the pumps, because remember the Trout Lake is still the feeder for Cliff Lake. Cliff Lake is down like every other lake in northern Manitoba, and I think the north generally. The lakes are all down this year. And so, and that's right across the north. I'm not even talking about Manitoba. So we've got to make sure there's enough water that stays in that lake so that the pumps can access it safely and access it to give us the water that we need for just keeping Cliff Lake at a level that we need it at. Now those pumps haven't been run for a while, and so there was going to be some discussion as to whether they'd be run again before this winter. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But all we have to do is have a discussion with Hud Bay, and they can pump for now. And so those levels, they're important to us in that we want to still be able to access pumping ability from Trout Lake. Trout Lake is a deep lake, so I don't think it matters if there's 2 feet more on the top or not. I don't think that's the biggest deal, but it's how we access it that's a big deal.
Okay, that more or less squares with what was talked about at the meeting. I know that the city doesn't get its water from Trout Lake, but it is that part of that watershed, so I figured if there was one impact on that lake, it would probably ripple out, including to Cliff, including to Big Island, including to a couple other places.
Well, in essence, the city does get our water from Trout Lake, because like I said, if Cliff Lake being that it doesn't have a serious feeder of any kind, it may be spring fed, nobody's actually sure how, because it's been controlled by mechanical services for the last 75 years or whatever. Nobody's quite sure how it's gonna do on its own, but we still have to have the ability to top it up. Under the present system, we have to have the ability to top it up through Trout Lake, so it's important to us that the quality of water in Trout Lake and the quantity of water in Trout Lake are sufficient. But it seems like it doesn't really matter. It seems like there's enough water there that even without the dam, we'd be all right. So I'm not sure where that's gonna go, in the long term, whether they'll keep it 2 feet higher or not. I think time will tell on that. And we've had our opinions on it, but there's engineers studying it, and, we'll see where that goes.
You think in 1988, the Trout Lake mine was a big concern. You could drive in front of the entire mine on your quad in 1988, and it didn't affect anything. So I don't think the dam is gonna affect us in any way, shape, or form, because it didn't bend.
And Hudbay seemed very amenable to working with us
Oh, yeah.
for the future, you know, so
Yeah,
it was a positive meeting, I thought.
like I think 2 years ago was when they first brought it up to mayor and council at that time about removing the dam. And there was one resident from Big Island was concerned about, what if the dam breaks? And I said, well, they do replace those boards periodically. So if you go there and look at those, everything's pretty pristine still.
Even if it breaks, the engineers, it wouldn't be a big deal.
No,
It's not like the Hoover Dam going or anything.
no, it's,
Is your answer?
Yeah, and as into what you guys are talking about there, at the meeting, they had discussed what they would forecast for in case the dam was overtopped to a large degree or blown apart in like 1,000-year rain or flooding event or something like that. I think they anticipated that it would be several days before Big Island would even feel anything from that, and it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 centimeters of lake rise, which if you've got lakefront property, that could be a bit of a problem, but nobody's got their place 70 centimeters from the shore, I don't think.
No, but that's vertical. I
Yeah.
think it was higher. I thought it was higher than that initially, for one of those big events, but it didn't sound catastrophic when they said it, but it sounded worrisome. If they already started on a high water year and then that hit on top, then it could be something that the people are certainly going to feel.
Yeah, I have the information written down someplace, but I'll leave that for later because I have the feeling that everybody in the room is slowly losing the will to live the more I talk anyway. So I'll keep the rest of it short. First question, an update on the Opposite project. Noticed online from our erstwhile communications fellow that there are some folks out there right now doing some work. What are we looking at right now, and what's the next few weeks looking like for that project?
Excavation started today.
okay, so there's a surveying and then the excavation.
I understood the excavation started today, and so the pilings will follow. So it's a go, that's where we're at. But that's what you're gonna see this fall, just that. And then in the spring they'll go at it, but that gives them a head start. They won't have to wait for a thaw, that sort of thing, so that's where they're at.
Okay. And so basically just like putting down the I guess part of the foundation and the pilings.
Yeah, piling, so there's no movement in there, that's the whole thing.
Okay. Also wanted to check in about the, and I believe this was another thing mentioned last meeting too, but the Whitney House and Staff House lease. Wanted to know if there's been any sort of update or change of scope to that project since it was last talked, what the city's plans are for that in the near future, if there's going to be anything going on in either of those buildings in the next little bit.
So yes, that's, the control is being given to the city of those buildings. So right now it's on a 1-year lease, but that's intended to become a permanent thing. And in the initial portion of the use of the staff house, there's a good chance that the people building the hotel will have workers housed out of there, and be able to make it more affordable for them to run their project, for which we will be ending up probably trading some favors.
Like what?
Like, for example, some repairs to the building itself,
Windows siding.
windows and siding, that kind of thing. So that's the discussion, there's nothing formal yet, but
Yeah.
it's going to be a back scratching trading thing. We have buildings that are going to cost money to renovate, and if we can work that out on the trade basis, that's going to be beneficial to both sides, on the short term and the long term.
Okay.
The building's in pretty good shape though overall.
Yeah.
Which is great, but it does need a little bit of TLC.
I mean, the front of the staff house has been taped off for a bit, I know that much. So I know when I come home from Bomber games, I see the caution tape flapping in the wind because it's quite
It's more of
loose.
a water thing, wasn't
Oh,
it?
yeah, that's because they're putting in sewer and water, they're putting in a change room, another change room closer to the carpenter shop. And they needed to, because they don't have sewer and water, they needed to access sewer and water through the city. So they're gonna do that with a large tank and with accessing water from the Whitney House. So that's why that was all taped off.
But to answer your question, there are several versions of what could happen with that building later on.
Yeah.
But first we have to make it, we have to modernize it a bit, so.
Okay. The other side of this too is, if people who would be involved with the Flin Flon Hotel project presumably would be staying in the staff house. It is close by, but my first thought on that is that these would be people who would otherwise be staying in hotels or in other places or at lodges around the area and now are instead staying in a place that's leased by the city. Is there a concern then that that's going to end up pulling business away from other Flin Flon businesses?
I hope not, and to some degree, you're probably right, but on the other hand, it's, when you're trying to get a project that big to go ahead, you take every advantage that you can, and try and make it as reasonable for both sides to be able to make sure that project goes ahead.
Okay. And one last question regarding the Flin Flon Hotel there. I also wanted to know too that when the announcement was first made, there wasn't really a whole lot of talk about what sort of terms were part of the deal from the city perspective. Were there any sort of commitments from city council or from the city for that site to go towards the build? Any sort of financial concessions that had to be made to get the job done, or what are we looking at with that?
Yeah, but I think we could probably let Ms. Brown go through that on our next meeting, okay? If you don't mind, so that I don't ad-lib my way into something that I'm saying something that I'm not clear on. So before I do, if you don't mind, ask that same question in 2 weeks.
Okay. Is she going to be, when's she going to be back in office? I can give her a
She'll
call.
be back in a week, yeah.
A week? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can start with that. I mean, we're working with them on the demolition, things like that, We've already agreed that we're a partnership on the demolition, and part of the contract, that's written up exactly how that works. But what else there is, I would just assume not go deeper until we have her here.
And there was work going on there around that site earlier today too. Thanks again to, picture that you posted. There was some sort of work going on by the Flon earlier.
I'm not sure anything about that. That's nothing I've been informed of, so.
I saw the post too. Did they say anything to you, Thomas, about what they were doing over there?
They were just drilling some holes to see what was underneath the ground,
Yeah.
underneath the top layer.
Yeah.
That's the back parking
Where
lot,
the
right?
bedrock was and
Yeah.
what the fill was. And
And I noticed that there was some fencing on the buildings to the left of the hotel. Looks like there's been some, I don't know if they're starting to tear them down or.
Yeah, I'm not aware.
Yeah, but I noticed some
We haven't had the water yet?
industrial fencing.
People going in there.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think there's more I can tell you today on that.
All right. Well, I tried.
Okay.
We'll get it to you though.
We had an 8-minute meeting and 20+ minutes of questions for me, so I'm good.
Rob, did you have anything? Because I'm gonna go over to.
I'm fine.